Hey, how's it going, guys? Welcome to another Google Sheets API in Python tutorial. In this lesson, we're going to learn how to perform formatting in Google Sheets. So this is going to be a pretty challenging topic since with formatting, there are quite many layers involved. And as well as there are different formatting settings and properties that you can use. So it is really up to you on what properties or formatting that you want to apply to your Google Sheets. What I'll show you in this lesson is how to navigate the documentation that contains all the formatting properties and objects. And I'll also show you a couple examples on how to use Google Sheets API to apply formatting to your data set. So here are my Google Sheets data set. So we have a very basic table. And this table has 5 columns. So first column is invoice, product, quantity, unit price, and sales total. What we'll be doing in this exercise will be formatting the table look like this. So we're not touching the invoice column or the products column. We're going to format the quantity in thousands. So if we go back to the raw data, here all the numbers are in their raw format. So meaning that they are not formatted correctly. For the unit price and sales total columns, I'm going to format the numbers as currency, and as well as formatting the background screen and bold the text. So look like this. Just something very basic. And here, let me navigate to my raw data. The next thing I want to talk about is the documentation. To format your spreadsheet, you want to go to the reference page, the Google Sheets reference page. And we'll be using the batch update method and providing the request object. And here's the JSON representation of the request object. And on the right, so here you can see all the contents that fell into the request object. Like I said, there are so many layers involved and properties involved. And these are all the things you can do to automate your Google spreadsheet. For example, we can providing the request object, specifying that we want to sort out data sets, want to copy paste the data sets, move different cell ranges, duplicate your worksheets, and so on. To apply formatting to our Google spreadsheet, I want to use an object called repeat cells. So let me search for repeat cells, and we choose this object right here. And if I navigate down to repeat cell request, so I'm going to launch a new page. Within the repeat cell request object, we also have 3 additional properties involved. So we have range, which is specifying the cell range we want to apply the formatting, and the cell, which is to specifying the formatting that we want to apply to our data set. So if I navigate to the cells object, and here we have different properties. So formatted value, effective value, user entered value, and so on. I won't be using all of them. I'll show a very basic example how to apply the formatting. And you can navigate to the documentation to see what formatting settings apply to you. Then you can add those formattings accordingly to your automation. Alright, so that's out of the way. Now let's go to our Python editor. Very similar to my previous video, I pre-wrote some of the Python script. And here's the Google Sheet API service object creation, and followed by we'll create a spreadsheet ID to store the Google Sheet ID. And here I'm going to create a variable called Sheet ID, and the Sheet ID is going to store the worksheet's ID, which is this GID value. I'm going to grab the value and just copy and paste to my Sheet ID variable. Let's go back to the documentation real quick. Now, if we go to batch update method, it should mean create a new page for the overview page. And if we look at the batch update method, and if we look at the parameters, we need to provide a spreadsheet ID, and for the request body, we need to provide request object, and these 3 properties are optional. If I want to return a spreadsheet object that contains all the spreadsheet's information, then you want to set the include spreadsheet in response value to 2. And the response range specifying what sub-ranges of information do you want to see. And response include grid data. So this one I'm not so sure what these properties for. So from the documentation, if you set this property to true, then the grid data should be returned. So you might have to experiment this one on your own, since I've never used response include grid data property before. Now let's go back to our Python script. Here I'm going to create an object called request body, and this is going to be our request JSON representation. Inside the request body dictionary, we want to supply request property. Request is property, and it's going to be a list. Inside the request is property, we can supply multiple dictionaries. Each dictionary will be one formatting settings that you want to apply to your Google Sheet. So here, this is going to be my first setting. I want to supply the repeat cell property, and followed by the range. And within the range property, we need to supply our sheet ID. And for the cell range, so let's go back to the Google spreadsheet. My rows range is going to be from row number 3 all the way to row 11. And for the column, it is going to be from column 2 to, let's see, column 2 to column, let's take a look. Right, so it's going to be from column 4, not column 2, column 4 to column 6. Let me use different color to indicating the column number. I hope that's good enough. And here, let me fill out the row index. So my start row index is going to be from row number 2 or index row number 2. So this one right here. And my ending row index is going to be 11. So row number 3 to row 11. And this one is going to be column D to F. So column D to column F. And I can use the start column index to indicating my starting column index. So if we look at our index value, so it's going to be 4, 5, 6. So that means my end column index is going to be 7. Actually, it is 7. Let's see. Oh, so we're going to format column 5 and column 6 separately. Let me use different color for column D. So actually, so this should be 1 and 2. So we'll format column E and column F first. So column E and F. So this will be 4 and 6, 4 to 6. And once we specify the cell range we want to apply the formatting, we want to insert the cell property to supply the formatting settings. So let's take a look at the cells JSON representation. So here we can supply many different settings, I'll be mainly using user entered value property. So if we navigate to the extended value property, and these are some of the settings we can supply. Actually, so conditional formatting. Let's see, text format. Let me search for property called number format. Actually, it's not here. Let me see. Number format. Oh, it's right here. So within the number format property, you can supply your number format type. So you can format the numbers text, number, percentage, currency, dates, and so on. So within the sales property, I want to provide the user entered format property. And it's going to be a dictionary. And for the format, so for the number format, I want to convert the number of the unit price and sales total columns to currency. So I need to specify the type, and it's going to be, TYP, and it's going to be currency. And currency should be capitalized. And here's a typo. And the pattern, so pattern just the formatting pattern. I want to set to just the regular currency format with 0 decimal point. I can also apply the background color using the background color property. And here I want to supply the RGB value. For red value, I can use, let's do 120. And for the green value, let's do 60. And for the blue value, let's use 70. Right, so 70, 120, 60, and 70. And if we want to change the font size, we can use the text format property. Inside the dictionary, we can specify the font size, and let's change the font size to 14. And we're going to set the font to bold. And that's all the formatting settings I want to apply. And here, let me collapse some of the lines. And once you finish supplying the formatting properties, we want to insert the fields property. Here, let me go back to the documentation. And let me go back to repeat cell. Let's see, repeat cells. Not this one, should be this one. Let me take a look. So should be. So let me search for repeat cell. Okay, right here. Within the repeat cell request JSON representation, we need to provide the range property, cell property, which is the formatting settings, and also need to provide the fields. So the fields is basically a list of cells properties together. And I won't be going into too much detail on the fields property. If we look at the documentation, the field math is actually pretty complicated. But for now, just take everything as face value. Alright, so within the fields property, we want to indicating. So here, let me expand all the lines. We want to take the user enter format. So I want to copy that property. And here we're going to insert parentheses. Under the user enter format setting, there's number format item that I want to apply, as well as background and text format. And for now, we can basically take this request body and apply the formatting settings to our Google Sheet. And let's do it right now, and I'll show you how to apply multiple settings all together. So here I'll insert my service object, .spreadsheets, .batch update. And we need to provide the spreadsheet ID. And for the body, we'll supply the request body object, .execute. Now if I save and run the script, and here I'm getting an error. So let's see, invalid JSON payload received. Unknown name fields. So I think it's the position. Repeat cell. Oh, so here it should be inside the repeat cell dictionary. So we should move that to here. Now let's try again. So if we put a spreadsheet right here, I'm going to press F5 to run the script. Right, so this time it applied the formatting to my sales is worksheet. So let me expand the window. So we format the unit price and sales total to currency format with 0 decimal point to the thousands, and also set the background to dark green and as well as bold the text. Right, so here let me copy my raw data back to the data set. So I'm going to reset everything back to the original format. Now I want to apply all the settings all together. That means to include the quantity column. And that's why the requested property is a list. So here's our first set of formatting group. Now we need to insert another group. And this one will be much easier. So what we can do is actually, let me do this. I'm going to delete the dictionary. What we can do is we can just copy this template and just make a copy. Except that I'm going to change the range reference. We know the rows is going to be the same. And the column is going to be column D. So it's going to be from column index 3 to column index 4. And for the number format, so we're going to change that to number. And for the pattern, I will just remove the currency symbol. And also remove these properties. Oh, and one more thing. And since we're only using number format property, so I can delete these two items. And that's it. Now if I press F5 to run it, and I'll format my sales is worksheet to the correct desired format based on all the format setting values that we specify in our Python script. Alright, so this is everything I want to cover in this video, and hopefully you guys found the material useful. For the next video, I'll be covering how to use Google Sheets API to create charts.